What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365 and TrueMark Financial Credit Union. And a happy Wednesday afternoon to you and your family and all of you across the Delaware Valley. And welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We are dealing with some unfortunate technical difficulties to start the show. Andrew's been going through it today. I think Andrew's about to office space our entire equipment set here. Between the ones in our studio and the ones that in Anthony's studio earlier.
Yeah, I might.
I think that this equipment might not be long for this world.
We're on the seventh floor. We'll see it drop 7 feet or 7 stories.
It's flying off the roof.
Yep.
Crash. That would be how this would go. Hello to you all, and hopefully you can hear us. I appreciate Andrew's efforts because he's been doing a ton today, so I think we are good. So thank you to Andrew for getting us off the ground here. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, as I just mentioned, Andrew's back with us today and Friday for that matter as well. And if you were with us yesterday, you saw the breaking news, obviously, that Kyle Schwarber is returning to the Phillies on a 5-year, $150 million deal. And at the same token, Rob Thomson was given a 1-year contract extension to not operate as a lame duck manager, and his extension runs through the 2027 season. So, obviously, the big domino fell yesterday, and I think that was the expected result, not just in terms of the Phillies re-signing Kyle Schwarber, but also Kyle Schwarber being really the first hitter, the big-time hitter off the board as the other players kind of line up in queue waiting for the results of Kyle Schwarber's contract. Jeff Passan reported it. Bob Nightingale reported it. A whole bunch of other people have talked about it throughout the last couple of weeks or so, that Kyle Schwarber would likely be the first player off the board. And he was. And to me, and I wrote this on the All PHLY website, you can go check out the mini article that we posted. As nerdy as it sounds, this felt like a Thanos Infinity Stones moment. It felt like Kyle Schwarber and the Phillies were an inevitable reunion, to me at least. It felt like it was a matter of when, not if, the Phillies would re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Really, the only question mark was going to be, what was the years and what was the money? And we gave out a money number of 4 years for $130 million, which came out to $32.5 million per season. Turns out it was 5 years and $150 million, which comes out to $30 million per season. So I have seen a lot of responses on social media about this signing, mostly good, some negative, and we'll talk about that here today on the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We're going to get into what comes next for this team, what is the next spot for the Phillies, and how do they go from here in terms of free agency, the trade market, what does it mean for the remainder of their 26 and 40-man roster. So here's what's coming up on the PHLY Phillies Podcast today. We are going to talk about the ramifications of the Kyle Schwarber contract. For those that don't like it, I'm going to explain why it had to be done. In the second segment, we're going to talk about Rob Thomson's contract extension, and we're going to hear from our friend Bill Matz in his Billadelphia segment of the day, which is discussing the Rob Thomson contract extension. We're going to talk about the Rule 5 draft today, which takes place just a little bit after we get off the air. It starts at 2 o'clock today. The Phillies have the 29th pick in the Rule 5 draft. Will they make a selection? Who could they lose? And what does the Rule 5 draft imply for roster ramifications in 2026? And as always, we'll wrap up our Wednesday festivities with our Remember Me segment of the day. So again, welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, thanks so much for being a part of today's show. If you're hanging out in the chat, you're watching afterwards, you're listening on the audio-only platforms, we appreciate you all enormously for being here today. So let's start with Kyle Schwarber re-signing. Now, if you watch the emergency pod that Jamie and I did yesterday, some of the things that I'm about to say you've already heard me say. But I think it's important to put into context the return of Kyle Schwarber and why it took 5 years. Now, first and foremost, the report comes out yesterday that the Baltimore Orioles offered a very similar deal to what the Phillies did. And in fact, it almost feels like the Orioles pushed the offer further along for the Phillies in terms of having to guarantee that 5th year, having to guarantee a specific number. So the Orioles were in play, reportedly. We had heard rumors that the Reds were in play. They apparently offered 4 years, 5 years and $125 million. They seem to be like their report was true, that they were going to offer up some big money. The Pirates even put an offer in, reportedly somewhere in the $4 to $100 to $125 million range for 4 years. There were a ton of suitors, which is exactly what we expected for the Kyle Schwarber sweepstakes. The fifth year felt like it had to be done in order to cross the finish line to re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Whether you like the fifth year or not is totally fair, but I think for those that are arguing that this may not age well in terms of years 4 and years 5, I've seen a lot of people say that they would have preferred a 3-year deal. The reality is you were not going to get Kyle Schwarber on a 3-year deal. And to even further that point, you probably weren't going to get Kyle Schwarber on a 4-year deal unless you offered him 4 for $150, which would have turned your annual AAV to almost $40 million per season. And I don't think the Phillies nor any other team wanted to do that. So if the number was 150 and the years were a guarantee, it felt to me like you had to give up the 5th year or give in the 5th year to get to that $30 million a year threshold. So if you're thinking and saying, well, he'll be 37, 38 years old at the end of the contract, that's a fair and valid point. He will be. The argument that I would retort to that is, if you feel like you can get 3 good years of Kyle Schwarber, 3 40-plus home runs, 90 to 110 RBI, somewhere in that sandwiched area per seasons from Kyle Schwarber, the alternative is to get 0 of those. Because if you're not willing to give the 5th year, or you think that 5th year is going to be bad, that's fine. And I don't have an issue with you feeling that way. But the alternative was you get 0 years of Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber's power is undeniable. Kyle Schwarber's ascension as one of the game's better hitters has become undeniable. And here you see his numbers from a season ago. He played in every game last year. Now he mostly DH'd, which allows him to keep his body fresh. But the numbers that jump out to you, of course, the 56 home runs, the career high in home runs for 56, the 132 RBI, also a career high in RBI. He had 81 extra base hits this year. He had a 928 OPS, and he was a 150 OPS plus, which means he was 50% better this year than the league's average hitter. And you see the Baseball Savant page. It's a whole heck of a lot of red. And what does he do well? He barrels balls. He hits balls hard. He doesn't chase. He walks a ton. The average exit velocity, when the ball leaves Kyle Schwarber's bat, you know that it's hit relatively hard far more times than it is not. What does Kyle Schwarber do poorly? Strikes out a lot. That's been Kyle Schwarber his whole tenure, especially with the Phillies. 200, 215, 197, and 197 over those 4 years. That's a lot of strikeouts, no question about it. But the good heavily outweighs the bad when it comes to a Kyle Schwarber tenure as a member of the Phillies, where you think about a 4-year average of just over 44 home runs per season with 46 home runs per season with 187 home runs in 4 years. 434 RBI over 4 years comes out to be over 100 RBIs per season, and 3 of the 4 years he drove in 100 plus. That all coming with the majority of those at-bats happening in the leadoff spot. The argument about the leadoff spot being you have to be able to drive runs in. You have to be able to protect Bryce Harper. Well, they moved Kyle Schwarber around in the lineup this year. He hit a lot of 2. He hit some 4, and the numbers were impacted. The RBIs went up because there were runners on base, namely Trey Turner, a little bit of Bryson Stott early in the year, some Bryce Harper, but a couple of different, configurations of the lineup. But you see those RBI numbers jump up because Kyle Schwarber had runners on base and he was able to drive them in. His numbers were excellent. And by the way, finished second in the MVP voting in 2025, behind Shohei Ohtani, who was the unanimous NL MVP. So when you think about what Kyle Schwarber has provided this team, I don't know if it's replaceable. I understand you could pivot and go get Pete Alonso. You can pivot and go get Cody Bellinger. You could pivot and maybe sign 2 players and do it in the aggregate. But I think when you know the known quantity, the tangible and intangible of Kyle Schwarber, the offensive productivity, the ability to play almost every night since joining the Phillies, his least amount of games played in a season with the Phillies, 150. Played every game last season. And then the intangible stuff, the locker room accountability, the leadership role, the way that Rob Thomson speaks about him and Bryce Harper speaks about him and JT Realmuto and Dave Dombrowski. This felt to me like it was a necessary move that needed to be made and one that felt really inevitable for Kyle Schwarber and the Phillies. So if you want to argue that the 5th year is not something that you're thrilled about, I'm okay with you having that argument. But I think your choices are 5 years and maybe having a conversation in years 4 and 5, or no years, and trying to figure out how you're going to replicate the 56 home runs and the 132 RBIs. And even if you want to say, as Rob Thomson talked about in the winter meetings yesterday, it's a career year. We're not expecting those types of numbers again. What you are kind of expecting are maybe closer to his 162 game total for his career, which is 43 home runs and 98 RBIs. This is a guy who has been in the top 10 since joining the Phillies in home runs, RBIs, runs scored, hard hit percentage, barrel rates, walk percentage. It just kind of tells you the type of player that Kyle Schwarber is and has been since joining the Phillies. He's gotten better against left-handed pitching throughout his time with the Phillies. He's gotten better with 2 strikes. He's become a more well-rounded, complete hitter based on the player that we saw in 2021, in 2022, when he joined the team. The guy that we saw in Chicago, the guy that we saw in spurts in Boston was a kind of eye-opening thought of maybe this guy is the one that's starting to ascend into becoming an elite hitter that we expected him to be. He hit 291 in Boston in that half a year. I don't expect him to do that. But if he can hit 240, 245, drive in 100, hit 40 home runs, that's a plug-and-play player every day in your lineup, somewhere between 2 and 4. Now, the argument that I do have belief that holds water, and I think is very fair to have, is that the Phillies shouldn't be done. Is that the Phillies need a right-handed power bat to supplement the lefties, to protect Bryce Harper. You could say move Kyle Schwarber to the 4, but what does that do for the 2 spot? It makes your 2 spot worse by bringing protection behind Bryce Harper in the lineup, and sure, it doesn't allow pitchers to work around Harper knowing that Alec Boehm is hitting 4th, or JT Realmuto is hitting 4th, or Brandon Marsh is hitting 4th. There's no question in my mind that if you have somebody like Kyle Schwarber behind Bryce Harper, then the protection is there. But the reality is also true that every time you move up in the batting order, you gain about 7 at-bats per year and close to 15 plate appearances per season. So you would lose almost 30 plate appearances and 14 at-bats by moving Schwarber full-time from the 2 to the 4. The argument that does hold merit is that the Phillies absolutely still need to go get a right-handed power bat, somebody who specifically can hit in the 4-hole. And whether you want to construct your lineup in a different way, if you don't sign a 4-hole hitter and move Schwarber to 4, you have to then go get somebody who can hit in the 2 spot every single day, against lefties and against righties. Not a platoon piece, not a guy who can hit in the 2 spot against right-handed pitching, but hit in the 8 spot against left-handed pitching. A guy that has to be able to be in that 2 or 4 spot to supplement this move. Because when you have the ability to move a guy like Alec Boehm down a spot or 2 in the lineup, like Brandon Marsh down a spot or 2 in the lineup, like JT down a spot or 2 in the lineup, you start to have construction of a lineup that probably should be in the right spot. Alec Boehm hitting 5 or 6 is not a bad thing. I think Alec Boehm would be an excellent 6-hole hitter every day. Doubles, average, doesn't strike out a lot. That's a perfect 6-hole hitter. He's not a cleanup hitter. That's just the way that it's going to be. If you could have Brandon Marsh hit 7 or 8th, beautiful. If you could have JT Realmuto hit 6th or 7th, beautiful. But you have to be able to maneuver somebody in that top 4 to make that happen. So while signing Kyle Schwarber, A, felt inevitable, B, to me, feels like it was the right move, and C, feels to me like you had to do it in order to continue to have the offensive productivity that you get in the regular season. We'll talk more about the postseason in just a second. There is no question in my mind they can't be done. And I don't know if that necessarily means they're going to shell out another $20 or $25 million per year, but I do think you have to figure out a way to get somebody who can plug and play in the 4 or 5 spot that's a right-handed bat to help offset the rest of this lineup. They are lefty heavy. There's no question about it. And if they were to go get a guy like Cody Bellinger, which I don't think they will at this point, but if they did, you just figure it out. I know that you're extremely lefty heavy at that point, but when you acquire good players, you figure out how to move them around in the lineup. I'd be okay with that type of move because you're acquiring a good player. But I think in a perfect world, in an MLB The Show type world, you're acquiring a right-handed power bat. So both of those arguments can be true at once. Bringing Kyle Schwarber back made a ton of sense, and it absolutely should have happened. They also still need to go make another move to help bolster this lineup. They still need a catcher. They still need to figure out what third base looks like next year. Is it Alec Boehm or is it somebody else? They need to figure out what center field looks like next year. They need to figure out what right field looks like next year. I think they probably should still be in the mix for a starting pitcher. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're considering adding to the bullpen because you can never have enough bullpen arms. All of those things could not happen, though, until Kyle Schwarber signed, here or elsewhere. And so Kyle Schwarber signing yesterday always made a lot of sense. And now that they've done it, now we figure out what's next. And what next to me is a right-handed bat. And before we hit our first break, I want to welcome our second member of today's show into the program. That's our producer. You heard him a couple minutes ago, our co-host, Andrew Frazier. Glad to have you back, Andrew.
What's going on, Tyler?
I'm hoping
long
you're
time no see. Not really. I see you all the time in the studio.
You and I have
but
not been on the air together in
we haven't
quite
been on the
time.
air. Yeah,
so
I know.
I'm glad to be back with you. I know you guys talked about this a lot on Anthony's show today.
Of course.
I didn't get a chance to hear
Big
your
news.
thoughts. Specifically, I assume you're pretty locked in based on the conversations you and I have had this summer. But your thoughts about the signing, the years, and how what's next scenario?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously we're hearing the grumbles. You know, people are upset about the years, the 5 years. The reality of the matter is this: this team's not going to get any younger anytime soon. They have a bunch of old guys on this team. So if you're going to win, you got to win now. You know, and you have to have that mentality. And the thing is, getting rid of Kyle Schwarber or not re-signing him would be a big hole for this team.
Sure.
I mean, look what he contributes to the offense. I mean, he's averaging about 50 home runs a year. You know, how can you get rid of that? You can't. That's something that you can't replace. You know, so getting rid of him isn't the option. If bringing him back was the option. Now, I get it. The 5 years, it's long. Jamie brought something up that was actually kind of intriguing on the show today. And if you look at Kyle Schwarber, from years age 30 to age 32, he actually hit more home runs than Babe Ruth did when he was from age 30 to age 32. Now, granted, you know, Bucky Sawgrass was pitching 70 miles an hour on the mound, you know, so like it was a lot easier.
Spitball.
Exactly. Hey, Shay, you know, so it was a lot easier for, you know, him to hit those home runs, but like that's pretty impressive for Kyle Schwarber to be able to do that. So I don't know. I'm fine with it. You're looking at also like re-signing JT, who is also, you know, he's rounding the bend. You know, he's also getting older. He's up there, and I think realistically, what they need to do is re-sign these guys, get JT back, which there's rumors that there is an offer on the table, and then find exactly what you were saying. Find that power right-hand bat, because this is what that team needs. They need support. These guys need support. And without that right-hand power bat, you're not going to get it. So if that's a Pete Alonso, if that's an Alex Bregman, if that's a Byron Buxton, if that's somebody of that nature, you know, go and find it. And I really do think that they have a card up their sleeve right now, and there's one more move to be made after getting JT, after getting Kyle, that they're going to find that bat. It's just who is it going to be?
And it's funny that John Peace brings it up, and I know John Peace is being facetious here, but says, who's the mythical right-handed power bat that also hits for average and plays good defense, outfield defense, and is a free agent? Right? Like when you're signing somebody at this point, I don't think you're getting all of those things. You're either getting a good bat, you're getting a good defender, you're getting, you know, somebody who is relatively inexpensive. You're not getting all of those things. Which we talked about it with JT. Like, even with diminishing results, I think JT still is one of the better offensive catchers in baseball. Yeah. So if you have that plus his pitch, his repertoire with the pitchers, his blocking ability, obviously his pop time is the big sell. I totally get that. But so to me, this is where I come back to. They have had zero success in the Japanese market, other than signing Koyo Iyagi, who ended up getting sent to Double-A and was terrible and went back to Japan within a half a season. I know they've had zero success in the Japanese market. I have no reporting, inside information on this. This is just my gut telling me. I think the Phillies end up signing one of two premier Japanese players this offseason. I don't think it's Murakami. I think they're either going and getting Okamoto, and he's going to be their third baseman next year, or this one could be a wow, what an acquisition, just make good even better. I don't think Tatsuya Imai is out of play.
Okay.
And I think that the Phillies look at losing Ranger Suarez, not knowing exactly what Aaron Nola is going to be, not knowing when Andrew Painter's arrival is going to be. I think that just like my gut, I have no proof. This is just me being speculatory fan. I have this just weird gut feel that Tatsuya Imai is going to seriously consider a Phillies offer if they offer him one.
Philadelphians are going to have the worst time trying to pronounce that name.
Well, the Hoagie Mouth
just
fans,
imagine,
the
yeah.
Hoagie Mouth fans struggle with everything.
With everything.
Did you watch Hard Knocks last night?
I did not, no.
So they just to kind of aside of that, Devontae Smith had a segment where he does Pilates every day to like strengthen his core and work on flexibility. And the woman who was teaching the class, Diane, had the most Philly accent ever.
Yay, Diane.
And it was just like, this is so spot on for Philly.
Doing Pilates with Diane.
Yeah, but it made me think about that when I saw that. And you know, I understand like there's a certain amount of money that the Phillies are willing to spend. And I understand that it's going to have to be a balancing act of acquisition of cheap talent or relatively inexpensive talent that you already have on your 40-man, a.k.a. Justin Crawford. Still even though I know people don't love him, like a Brandon Marsh is probably only going to make about $5 million this season. That type of stuff has to offset the signings, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the Phillies have one more high-end signing in them.
Yeah.
And I think it's either going to be a power bat that people have talked about a lot, like a Adolis Garcia type of bat where you get him for 15, 18 million a season, or just my gut has this, like, I can't shake the feeling of Tatsuya Imai feels like he would be such a great piece in this rotation because he's already said, like, I want to beat the Dodgers.
Oh, that's great.
I don't want to pitch for the Dodgers. Like, I want to be a team that beats them type of thing.
Oh, you got to love that.
I love that attitude.
Yeah.
And the report to me that I saw earlier today was that the Yankees may not be willing to put in a fourth big-time contract in their rotation because think about it. They're already paying Cole. They're paying Rodon. They're paying Fried. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're willing to play another big-time type of starter. So if the Yankees are out, and if he doesn't want to play for the Dodgers, to me, that leaves San Diego still in the mix. It leaves the Mets still in the mix. It leaves the Phillies in the mix. And I think it still leaves the Cubs in the mix. Those four teams right now would be like really intriguing acquisitions for him. I just have this spot in my head where I think Imai may be interested in a Phillies connection.
Hey, and that would be fantastic. I mean, obviously, we know the success of that market, right? Of the Japanese market.
Sure.
There's quality players that are coming out of Japan.
Yeah.
And to be able to just get
Yamamoto, Sasaki, just in the last 2 seasons, you have seen a plethora of starters, and the starters have gotten better in Japan. We talk about like, oh, velocity's down across Japan. Not the guys that are coming over. It's the guys that go from here to Japan that don't throw as hard. The guys that have been coming over all throw gas.
Yeah.
And this guy's mid-90s.
It's the Japanese league is like the alternate minor league to the MLB. It's exactly what it is.
It's the second best league in the world.
It's the second best league in the world with some of the top quality there. And yeah, I mean, they can get their hands on one of those guys. That would be fantastic. And it's a market that they need to get into.
Oh, for sure.
You know, because, you know, it is a little, you know, flavorless on the team. We can say that, you know. Yeah, so I'm excited. I've also heard like rumors of Ketel Marte. Teoscar could be a possibility.
Teoscar would be interesting because the defense sucks, but the bat's there, right?
So
if you're willing to put Nick Castellanos in right field, you're willing to put Teoscar Hernandez in right field.
Oh, that dude is killer at the plate.
Or maybe Hernandez in left and Marsh in right type of, like maybe you flip-flop the two.
Yeah.
But if Castellanos' defense is as bad as we know it to be, if you're willing to put him out there, you're going to put Teoscar out there. He's a better hitter than Castellanos at this point.
And I think everybody would have been all right with Castellanos with the defense if he just didn't swing at every pitch that was outside of the zone.
The player I think a lot of people had hoped Castellanos would be, you could live with the defense.
Yeah, which Teoscar could be that.
Sure. And my argument with him is always a lot of swing and miss, right? Teoscar Hernandez, right? A lot of swing and miss. But the power's there. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
And if the Dodgers are looking to offset because they're trying to they just brought Edwin Diaz in for another another addition to their already stacked team.
Crazy.
Like
the team
report, I saw a report the other day that said they're still interested in Skubal. Like
it's just not fair.
If they get Skubal, man, I don't know if I can defend them anymore.
It's just like not fair. Like I maybe that's like crybaby of me to say that, but like it really just feels not fair.
They have the money, and they have a good farm system year after year. And it's like you put the two together, and it's like that's juggernaut right
The
there.
Phillies also have the money, they're not spending that much.
But they don't have the farm system to match the trade
That's
market.
true, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you can go and make those trades because
you have all
over
those.
the last few years, they've traded for Scherzer, they've traded for Trey Turner.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
How they can maintain that farm system and still do as many trades and deals as they do.
Yep.
It's like, how are they finding all these prospects? What well do we need to tap into? There's got to be something that the Phillies can find that they can just, drill.
Oh, and by the way, Dodgers farm system's not that good. Broad Street Bully says. I think the expectation numerically on them is whether you want to say their prospects end up working out or not. Like they are consistently a top 10 farm system team. Right, that's your point. Right, look at the players that they've traded and how did the players turn out. Whatever their career trajectory ends up being, the perception of them is way better than it is.
Yeah.
That's how you end up trading guys like Keibert Ruiz, and then you just bring a Dalton Rushing in. You move all these guys and get big-time returns. That's the point I'm trying to make. Whether you think they end up being good players or not is a different conversation. But the perception of them is that, they got another top 10 player, top 10 prospect.
The Dodgers are that seedy guy in the back alley with the trench coat selling watches. Like they just, they're fake, but they just like, ooh, shiny. That's what they do. They're just good at selling a promise.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've talked way too long. Let's take a pause. On the other side, we're going to get into our big takeaway segment of the day, which is a conversation about Rob Thomson, and we'll hear from our buddy Bill Matz as he brings us our Billadelphia segment of the day as well. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we'll be right back after this. All right, we all know that feeling, the one when you walk into the jewelry store trying to pick out something for your partner, and suddenly you're in over your head. You have so many questions. You're thinking, what's the difference between all these diamonds? What are the 5 C's? What if my partner doesn't like what I purchased? Yeah, we know. It can be stressful. I was there. I know how it feels. That's why working with Joe and Michelle at Bucci's Jewelry and Design takes that pressure off of you. They are a game changer who make the entire process seamless, and they want to make you feel not like a customer, but more like family, more like one of one. So from the minute that you walk in, they treat you like a person that they have known for 30 years. They listen to you. They help you figure out exactly what you're able to spend and what you know and what your person loves. And then they go and make a design completely custom right there in-house. There's no pressure, no pushy sales vibes, just good people who do what they love and love what they do. So next time you need the perfect piece, head on over to Joe and Michelle at Bucci Jewelry and Design. 30 plus years in the game, voted Philly's #1 jeweler year after year, and over 1,000 5-star reviews. They speak for themselves. Check them out at BucciJewelers.com and tell them that the guys at PHLY sent you. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends at Xfinity, because whether you're thinking about catching college football playoff coming around the corner or pro football as it's in full swing, pro and college hoops, hockey as well, you can do it all with our friends at Xfinity. If you call yourself a sports fan, you have to get Xfinity. It is the ultimate sports destination where you get all of the best games and your favorite teams all in one place. The way that you watch becomes next level with crystal clear optics and, of course, sounds enhanced with 4K. You're going to feel like you're at the arena anyway, and you don't have to worry about battling traffic and concessions and all of that. You do it right there from the comfort of your couch. And sometimes you can have 4 games going at once, because why not? You can. And on top of that, you get real-time notifications and live stats right there on your TV. It's the best seat in the house every single time. So next game day, make sure the big fan in your life isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, everybody hanging out in the chat. Want to say hello to you all real quick. John Peace, Ray Schumacher, Paul W., Mickey Durkin, Rich, who have I not had a chance to see so far? Nick Albay, who else is here? Young 54, Broad Street Bullies. Everybody that's in the chat, if I have not had a chance to mention you personally, thank you so much for being a part of today's chat. I really, really appreciate you all for checking out today's show. And again, if I did not say your name personally, I appreciate you as well. So thank you for being here, watching, chatting along, and listening to the show on the podcast platforms as well. All right, let's get into our big takeaway segment of the day, which is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. And before we do that, I want you to hear from our buddy Bill Matz. It's Billadelphia as the world is seen from the crazy head of our friend and one of the most entertaining people that I know, Bill Matz. This is the world according to Billadelphia.
Welcome to Billadelphia, ladies and gentlemen, and we have some news. We have some pretty good news here after an embarrassing Eagles performance. The Phils give us a little bit of good news. They re-signed Kyle Schwarber, and that's huge. They absolutely had to. They had absolutely no way of replacing his production, what he brings to the clubhouse, and basically everything he does for this team. They had no other way of replicating that. This was a must-do move for Dombrowski in the front office. Well done. You got it done. The next few years are the championship window. It would be nearly impossible to do it without Kyle Schwarber. That's not the news I want to talk to you about today, though. It is the Topper extension. Rob Thomson signed through 2027. He was coming up on his lame duck year, and now he is the manager, at least contractually, for the foreseeable future. Now, when they committed to Topper at the end of the season after they get eliminated, this was basically a foregone conclusion. I don't love it because something has to change with this team. You can't just run it back because we've tried the run it back thing. It doesn't work. What this tells me is that this front office is committed to making some other changes. We knew Cassidy was going to be gone. How much of the salary they have to eat is going to be the question. That was, again, a foregone conclusion. This tells me, though, we're going to see Bohm moved or we're going to see Stott moved. There's going to be some big shakeup to the core of this team because you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. And that's what I see coming next. I don't know what the move could be, but I am excited that keeping some things the same means the stuff that we want to see changed, really badly want to see changed, that is coming next. Whether it is Bohm, whether it is Stott, whether it's securing the corner outfield, whatever the issues might be, we are going to see a difference. I think it has to be. I think this means there have to be more moves that change up the everyday lineup, that change up the everyday defensive alignment of this team, because what we've seen basically since the no-hitter in the World Series, this team ain't good enough as currently constituted.
Rob Thomson being back and shaded it to shake up in the lineup because Rob Thompson's back. And this is, again, where our big takeaway comes in, according to our friends, or brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity, Imagine That. When it was announced that Rob Thomson was going to come back, there was no fanfare, there was no trumpets, nothing like that. It was just one of those situations where Dave Dombrowski in his postseason presser basically said, yeah, they're all coming back. Coaching staff is coming back. Kevin Long, Caleb Cotham. The only thing that they were doing was adding a bench coach because Mike Calitri is not adding a bench coach, adding another position that Mike Calitri was going to fill, which was the fielding coordinator at the major league level, and that they were going to need a bench coach, which is where the Don Mattingly conversation has come into play. But when they announced that all of these guys were going to be back, my initial thought was, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that, blanket statement, everybody is going to be back. I thought that the likeliest scenario was that Kevin Long would not return. When that was announced, I thought maybe the next step down would be, I am surprised that Rob Thomson and all of the coaches are returning. Caleb Cotham was the only one to me that felt safe. I think Caleb Cotham's done an excellent job with this Phillies pitching staff over the last couple of years. But the one that I thought was the biggest surprise was Kevin Long. Next step down was, well, if Rob Thomson is going to be back, then they're not going to let him manage on a lame duck contract. So what tends to happen is managers don't like managing, as Bill said. They don't like managing on lame duck contracts. It feels like their power gets undermined. They feel like they're just not able to do what they want to do because they're walking on eggshells, which I understand that point. I don't necessarily totally agree with it all the time, but I understand why a manager like Rob Thomson would want that extra year of security. That doesn't necessarily mean that Rob Thomson is going to be the manager throughout all of this year, throughout all of next year, if there is baseball in 2027. What that means is they are allowing him the comfort to know that he's going to be here I think at least through 2026. Now, that does not necessarily mean that the Phillies would not move on from Rob Thomson after 2026 if results are similar or worse than what they've been over the last 2 seasons. But I do think it gives an understanding as to why they did it. Because as soon as Rob Thomson was announced that he was going to be back, the expectation was that a 1-year extension would probably come into place in the near future. To Bill's next point is an interesting dynamic of shakeup would it be Bohm, would it be Stott? I have long said I think that Alec Bohm is probably back on this team, with the exception of a signing that we didn't expect, like an Okamoto, or a trade that we did not foresee at the initial juncture of the offseason. I think Bohm's likeliest scenario is that he is back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a foregone conclusion. Bohm and Stott probably would be the two that would be the shakeup of the group of guys that have movability, right? Because you've got guys at the top of your organization that either have no trade clauses or have big-time contracts. Then you have guys like Nick Castellanos who may get moved, but you're not getting anything in return back for him, and you're eating a majority of the salary. The young guys of the core, the Bohm, the Marsh, the Stott, always seem to be the movable pieces. I don't think they have any interest in moving Marsh unless they get somebody in return or subsequently that would be an offset and a play every day type of guy. I think that the two likeliest move candidates are Bohm and Stott, but I also do think that Alec Bohm has a very real chance of being back in 2026. So while I understand Bill's point, I don't know if I agree with his player sentimentality of who's going to move, but I do get that if they're going to bring the manager back, to Bill's point, that the shakeup would then come from the players themselves. All right, that's our big takeaway segment of the day. It's brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. Bill's Takes are brought to you by our friends over at Togo, integrated systems that help your business run smoothly without having to do the mundane, everyday stuff and taking time away from your superstar players. So we'll be right back on the other side. We'll get into the Rule 5 draft. We have to wrap up today's show with Remember Me, as we do each and every Wednesday, and we'll put a bow on today's episode here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we'll be right back after this. All right, whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way to win with the BetParx online casino app. You can check out some awesome new casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, which is a BetParx exclusive. It's just a small reason as to why it's the only app I would ever use to play all of my favorite casino games right there in the palm of my hand. All of the table games at your fingertips. Blackjack, roulette, craps, poker, baccarat, and of course, some hot online slots like Cash Eruption and 88 Fortune, and slots games that are based on your favorite streaming shows like The Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, and so much more. And how about this? New users right now get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So head on over to betparx.com, download the app today, and enjoy all the action and the excitement of the casino right there at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. BetParx. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Shady Rays. You know that feeling when you're having a great day. You're out at the amusement park, the beach, an outdoor concert, whatever it might be, or you're on the slopes and you're skiing or snowboarding now that the winter has come into play, and you realize, I've lost my shades. It's a really kind of sunken feeling that you realize that you lost your favorite pair of sunglasses. But with our friends over at Shady Rays, you don't have to worry about it because every single pair that you buy is backed with a lost or broken replacement guarantee. And with Shady Rays, you get crystal clear optics, polarized lenses, sleek styles, every style that you can think about, and of course, frames that not only look good, but feel comfortable on your face as well. We have teamed up here with our friends over at Shady Rays to bring you an awesome offer as the holidays have come into full swing. Head on over to shadyrays.com. Use that promo code on the bottom of your screen, PHLY, for 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses. And you can try for yourself why these shades are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people, including myself at shadyrays.com. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier here. Everybody hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you all being here. We have about 20 minutes left in today's show, so let's turn our attention to what's going to happen in about an hour and 20 minutes time, which is the Rule 5 draft. So just to give you a little bit of context, because I don't know how everybody understands the Rule 5 draft. The Rule 5 draft is primarily a prospect-driven draft that is players that are Rule 5 eligible that have not been protected by the 40-man roster. So teams can select a player off of a team's 90-man roster that is not on the 40-man roster after a certain amount of years played within the team's organization. So, for example, the Phillies this year had to protect Andrew Painter. They protected Alex McFarland, a couple other players as well, but they did not protect most of the rest of their prospects that were Rule 5 eligible. In fact, there were 41 players that the Phillies did not protect to the Rule 5 draft, but the likelihood is there may be like 3 or 5 guys that have a chance at being selected. So the Phillies today have the 29th pick in the Rule 5 draft as the order gets selected in reversed standings order from the season prior. And if you remember, the only team with a better record in the 2025 season than the Phillies was the Milwaukee Brewers. So the Phillies are going to pick 29th. To put it into perspective of the chance of A, a player being selected, and B, the Phillies making a selection, last year, 15 players got selected in the Rule 5 draft. Now, teams are not required to take anybody. You could say pass and you're done if you don't want anybody on the team. But if you do select a player in the Rule 5 draft, that player, in order to stay with your organization, has to be on the 26-man roster for the entire year, or they get subject to waivers and being offered back to the original club. So, to give you a context a little bit further, of the 15 players that were drafted, only 3 guys stayed with the club that they were drafted by for the full season. Shane Smith is the most obvious one. Shane Smith went from a Rule 5 pick to being an all-star this season for the White Sox. Liam Hicks was selected by the Miami Marlins. He stuck around. And then Angel Bastardo was selected by the Blue Jays. He was the third one. Now, the Phillies' likelihood of selecting a player might be tepid. They might select a player, they might not, based on who's readily available at the 29th selection. But the Phillies have not had a Rule 5 player who they selected not get traded or make the opening day roster, or not make the opening day roster, since 2016. The last Rule 5 player that they selected was Tyler Goeddel. That team sucked. Tyler Goeddel sucked. No disrespect. He had one major league season. It was that year. He was a fine defender, but he was not a good hitter. Now, the Phillies have had a modicum of success in the Rule 5 draft. As John Peace points out, Shane Victorino is the shining example of players that were selected as Rule 5 players that went on to have really good major league careers. The Phillies have also had starters in the Rule 5 draft over the last decade or so. They've had some center field help from 37 on their team, but he was a Rule 5 selection as well. I think right now, I would say there's about a 50-50 chance of the Phillies actually selecting somebody. And I would say there's maybe 15-85, meaning 15 yes, 85 no, that the Phillies selection ends up being a player on the Major League roster for the entirety of the season. My bet would be that they probably don't have a player on their Major League roster. And they may bring somebody in and have them go to spring training, but I don't think that player is going to end up making the team. They're a veteran-laden team. Most of the roster, 26-man roster spots, seem to be pretty locked down, or have an idea of that they're going to sign players or trade for players that are Major League caliber players. My expectation is that they may select somebody, but I don't think that player is going to end up sticking on the 26-man roster. The more likely scenario, I think, is that the Phillies lose a player in the Rule 5 draft. Now, as I said, they've got 41 players who are Rule 5 eligible. I think there's maybe 3 that have a chance at being selected. Now, to me, the most likely player to be selected in today's Rule 5 draft is Griff McGarry. So Griff McGarry, if you remember him, was a highly touted prospect for the Phillies who has had his share of struggles and kind of felt like he was almost in no man's land over the last couple of years. He had a really rough 2023. Then he was moved to the bullpen in 2024. He was better, but not great. He was then moved back to a starting role in the Phillies organization and had a much better 2025. There you see the difference in his last 2 seasons as a starter. 2023, he pitched just 60 innings to a 6 ERA. And the big problem, as you can see in 2023, and really the big problem for Griff McGarry over the course of his minor league career, his command stinks. He had 50 walks in 60 innings pitched in 2023, which led to a 1.50 whip, which tells me that he really doesn't give up a lot of hits. Oh gosh, his ERA, no, his ERA was not 32. That's my bad. I messed up on that graphic in 2025. No, his ERA was not 32 in 2025. That's my fault. His ERA Excuse me.
Could you imagine?
That's, oh my God.
That dude's a machine.
Nobody would ever get picked. Excuse me. His ERA was 3.44. I apologize. I don't know what I did there.
That's
His
so
ERA
funny.
in 2025 was 3.44, which is where I get to the conversation. Dear Lord, that's like the worst pitcher ever.
Oh, yeah. Dude was a machine. He was hitting the bat with the ball.
He was trying to.
He was aiming for the bat.
Sleeper agent for the rest of the teams. He might have been. Did you hear the story about the guy in the minor leagues, the prospect, the catcher, who was giving signals away to the hitters?
No.
There's a whole story about this dude who was like giving pitch sequencing away.
Really?
I don't know how true it is, but I think it's hysterical. But that's how that would feel. No, I'm sorry. His ERA was 3.44.
That's really funny.
But the point that Griff McGarry has had issues with command is very real. Yeah, I think Wheat could pitch to a 32 ERA.
Yeah.
His command has always been his biggest problem, but 2025 was a much better year. So obviously, again, the ERA is 3.44. It jumps out. But the command did work in his favor. The thing about Griff McGarry that is tantalizing is his stuff has always been elite. Power, fastball, good movement. He had a 121 stuff plus based on Baseball America last year, which is to say 100 is average. He was 21% better than all of the other prospects in baseball last year in terms of the minor leagues. In terms of stuff, he's always been a stuff guy, but the command has been terrible throughout his career. And as I said, 50 walks in 60 innings. Last year, he had 49 walks in just over 83 innings pitched, which I still think could come down, but it's much better in context compared to giving up 50 walks over 60 innings. And it's why his whip was down to 1.21 compared to 2025 or 2023, where it was 1.5. I think if any Phillies prospect or any Phillies player not protected by the Rule 5 has the biggest chance of being selected, I think it's Griff McGarry. Now, I was scrolling Twitter to see what the interest of Griff McGarry by other organizations was. Several times, I saw Angels fan pages say, hey, what about Griff McGarry? Would you be interested in selecting him? I saw a Cubs fan page talk about him. I saw multiple minor league fan pages talk about him. And I think there is a real chance that Griff McGarry could be selected. Now, the one thing that's going to be a knock on him is that he's already 26. He's going to be 27. And I think that's why the Phillies chose Alex McFarland to protect as opposed to Griff McGarry. So I would say that of any Phillies prospect that has the chance of being selected in today's Rule 5 draft, Griff McGarry makes the most sense. Now, I will say this. If he is selected, I do think there's a chance that a major league team would like to see what he could do out of the bullpen as opposed to as a member of a starting rotation. But I think that that is the most likely outcome, that if a Phillies prospect gets selected, Griff McGarry would be number one. The other guy I do have intrigue in is Caleb Ricketts. Now, he's never played above AA, which would be a massive jump to go from AA to the majors. But as a catcher, in a position of scarcity, there may be some intrigue there for teams that don't have a legitimate backup catcher. Maybe Caleb Ricketts would make some sense for a team that's towards the bottom of, I would say, my guess would be the upper echelon of round 2, meaning that like when the good teams start passing on guys, some of the bad teams may select a second player. Ricketts may be a part of that spot. I don't think he gets selected. My guess would lean no, but he would be intriguing considering the catching depth across Major League Baseball is pretty bad. But if I had to say if any of the Phillies were getting selected, it would be Griff McGarry this afternoon. All right, let's pause on the other side. We have to get to our Remember Me segment of the day, our Wednesday weekly Remember Me segment. We'll do that all on the other side. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we will be right back after this. All right, listen up, parents. The holidays are coming fast. They're almost in full swing at this point. And right now is an incredible opportunity to teach your kids a little something about money. And that's where Greenlight comes in because they make it easy. It's the all-in-one money app, and it's a debit card that is made just for you, parents, kids, families. It helps your kids learn how to spend wisely, save for what matters, like those Christmas gifts for mom, dad, grandmom, grandpa, whomever, siblings, and it helps them build smart money habits along the way. It is a perfect opportunity for you to kind of stay in control of their finances where they get an understanding of what finances are. And the best part is TrueMark Financial Credit Union members get a free custom card with their free Greenlight subscription, a $79.99 value for free. And if you're not a member yet, that's totally okay. You can open an account online or at any one of TrueMark Financial's 24 branch locations and score this exclusive offer. You'll get real-time spending alerts, easy control, an instant on-off switch for you to stay in control of those finances, again, while your kids learn a little bit more about what it means to spend. So make this holiday season a win. Head on over to TrueMark.com/Greenlight for all of the details and to get started today. TrueMark Financial Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services, because you know all about Ace. They are the helpful hardware folks. But did you know they're also the helpful hardware home service team? And now that the winter is in full swing, you don't want to have these home projects pile up. Trust me, it is not something you want to be doing, is standing outside trying to figure out, why are my gutters falling apart? Why is there a draft coming in? Why is my heating not working the way that it expects? You don't want to be left out in the cold during the winter months. That's where Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services comes into play. They bring the trusted local pros right to your front door to help you get your home ready for these cold winter months. Whether it's a heating tune-up or plumbing fixes or something significant like emergency repairs, their experts handle it all. There's no guesswork. There's no stress. It's just good people who know what they're doing that get the job done right to your satisfaction. And of course, that satisfaction is guaranteed with the help of our friends at Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services. To find the help you need on your next project, head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We're going to get to Remember Me in just a second, but I do want to put this this tweet up that I saw from Codified Baseball, who asks, who had a better major league career before turning 27? This is an intriguing one, Andrew, because it's not something I would have thought about initially, but it's an intriguing one. Who had a better major league career through their before turning 27? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Vladimir Guerrero Sr.? Now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s big help is that he's played almost 200 or over 250 more games than his dad, and he also has over 1,000 more plate appearances. But Vladdy Jr. is in pretty good company. He has over 1,000 hits already. His 183 home runs are 13 more than what his dad has put together. His 591 RBIs are about 80 more than what dad did as well. And if you know me, Andrew, we've talked about this before. You know Vlad Guerrero, my all-time favorite player. I love Vladdy. He's my favorite player of all time. And those numbers tell you he had a heck of a start to his career. 319 average obviously is significantly higher than Vladdy Jr.'s 288. The OBP, the slug, the OPS, they all go in Vlad Sr.'s favor. But what this tells me is not that we already know Vlad Guerrero Sr. was a heck of a ball player. Vladdy Jr. is having himself a pretty darn good career to start his career. And I shouldn't say to start anymore. He's been in the big league since he was 20.
Yeah, he's been here for a while.
But this dude is on a really good trajectory so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I really wanted to see them, win that World Series.
I think a lot of us did.
Especially for him. He had such a great postseason and such a great season.
He was a monster last postseason.
He was phenomenal. And, I mean, hey, genetics, man. It's in there. He's got it. His family's got it.
Are we potentially, I hate to say it, he's got a lot of ball left to play. Are we potentially on pace to see a Vladdy Guerrero Sr., Vlad Guerrero Jr. Hall of Fame candidacy?
I think so.
I think
Does
if
he-
if
does-
he keeps it this trajectory,
Does Guerrero Jr. have kids?
I don't know.
Because I would love to see like the family tree, and if they all continue playing baseball, just because
Three generations
if he's
of
better than his dad, is his kid going to be better than him? Like, I want to see.
Interesting. I think Vlad Guerrero Sr., I think still is on pace to outperform Guerrero Jr. But as we said, Vladdy Jr. has 1,077 hits already. I mean, I think that there's a very realistic chance that he gets to at least 2,300 hits in his career.
Yeah.
Does he hit 400 home runs? Because I think Vlad Sr. has about 440. There's a case to be made that this kid's well on his way to a potential Hall of Fame career.
I think so.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was interesting. All right, let's get to our final segment of the day, which is our Remember Me segment, as we do each and every Wednesday afternoon to wrap up the show. Andrew, today's Remember Me category is based on Kyle Schwarber signing his 5-year deal yesterday. So in honor of him signing his 5-year deal, I went and I found 3 players that have signed 5-year deals or more since the 2011 offseason. So the last 15 years of signings,
Okay.
3 players that have signed 5-year deals or more that I think are all pretty well-known players, at least in their time. Let's see if you can remember them.
Oh, we'll see.
As we are at 2026. So let's get to player number 1 in our Remember Me segment of players that signed 5-year deals in their Major League career. Player number 1 is a guy that spent 14 years across 4 teams in his Major League career. He was a 4-time All-Star. He was the 2007 Silver Slugger and Gold Glove winner at his position in the National League. And in 2015, he signed a 5-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. In 2015, signed that deal. Went on to play 14 years in his Major League career. I would say I don't think I remember him as much as a Blue Jay as I do for his initial team, but was a pretty good player for the Toronto Blue Jays in his own right.
Oh, you want me to try
Any thoughts? Played for the Yankees, the Pirates, and then the Blue Jays. Was an all-star with the Blue Jays, but I would say his best
15.
years were with the first team he played for.
Early 2010s.
Yes, Mickey Durkin, it is a catcher. Finished 9th in the Rookie of the Year voting in 2006.
Catcher.
3 all-star appearances in 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Is it Batista?
It is not. No.
That was a good guess.
This guy hit 20 or more home runs 4 times.
The chat can grab this one.
It is a catcher. First few seasons, 282, 293, 280. Then he hit 290 in 2014 at 31. 248 career hitter, but had a few years of really strong offensive performances. I would say mostly known for his first team. Was the starting catcher in both 2008 and 2009 in the NLCS against the Phillies. It is not Jorge Posada. Did play for the Yankees, this guy.
I'm stumped.
All right, I'll give the chat just a few more seconds to try to guess this one. It has not been guessed so far. I thought this guy was a really good player. I'm trying to see if he was traded at any point to give you an idea, but I believe he was all free agency. He was traded at the very end of his career, but that really didn't matter at that point. The 5-year deal that he signed with the Blue Jays was good for 7, 15, 20, 20, and 20. The Blue Jays took on 16.5 to trade him away in the final year.
Huh.
Whoa. We got big news.
Yeah, that is big news. I just saw that. Ray.
All right, let's
Ray
strap
Schumacher.
Remember Me. We got to talk about this for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Pete Alonso is in contract agreement with the Baltimore Orioles.
Wow.
5-year, $155 million.
$155 million.
$155 million. So he gets $5 million more than Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what my initial reaction is?
Wow.
the Mets are missing out on everybody.
Yeah.
They don't re-sign Diaz. They don't get Schwarber. They don't re-sign Pete Alonso. They better have something up their sleeve, man.
The Mets?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They spent a lot of money and they didn't work out.
Well,
Juan
that's my
Soto,
thing is at this point, you almost have to double down, right? Like you spent $700 million on Juan Soto last year.
Who are they going to go
missed
for?
The playoffs. What's that?
Who would they go for, though?
It's good. I mean, it's got to be, you got to go sign, or you got to go push for a Tarek Skubal trade at this point, right? And I know that doesn't help your offense.
Yeah.
But like that's the, wow.
Ethan in chat, by the way.
What up, Ethan? Hope your finals are going. Ethan's taking finals today.
He is.
And this week.
You
Hope
have
your
not been
finals are going
banished
well.
from the seat. I'm just keeping it warm for you.
So that's my initial thought is, wow, I cannot believe the Mets are losing out on another player.
That's crazy.
My next thought is
Baltimore.
Wow. Spending some money.
They're spending some money. I wonder what their strategy is.
Mash.
It
That's going to be their strategy.
It seems
is
like
mash.
it's the mash.
So they trade for Taylor Ward.
Mashamore.
They trade for Taylor Ward. They sign Pete
Baltamash.
Alonso. Gunner's nasty. I think their expectation is. Oh, by the way, I apologize, Andy. I'm gonna. Jeez, my mind is on. I don't think I've ever called you Andy.
You've
before.
never
My
called
bad.
me Andy. I didn't know. I didn't know if you were talking to me.
I was my bad. I was gonna say Adley. Speaking of Adley,
Adley Rushman,
and then
yeah.
I was gonna say Andrew.
Yeah.
I've never called you. I don't even know if do people call you Andy?
No.
I didn't think so.
That
I've
is
never heard anybody call you.
It's not an
So I was
appropriate
gonna
name
say
for me.
Adley talking about the Orioles, and then I was going to say Andrew. We got to go to overtime.
Overtime, yeah.
So
Here we go.
let's pause in just a moment. Let's hit the OT. Thanks for checking us out. If you're watching on our streaming services, head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. That's Andrew. Adley Rushman is.
My mom would wring your neck.
What's that?
I said my mom would wring your neck.
She hates Andy?
She hates the name Andy, and it was always very strict about my name
was
is
she
Andrew.
a mom that said I named him Andrew? We're calling him Andrew.
It's a childish name, Andy.
Interesting.
I mean, no offense to any Andy out there.
Sure.
If you're listening, Andy's, we love it, but yeah, I go full
no,
name
hey,
Andrew.
you do you. So for a while, when I was a kid growing up, I hated being called Ty. I've gotten off.
Yeah,
You
it's a
wanna
short
call
name.
You call me Ty. You go ahead and call me Ty. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But it was when I was a kid. I was like, my name is Tyler.
Yeah.
Don't call me. I hated Ty growing up.
Yeah.
So I get it.
There was a weird phase that I went Drew.
Drew is so.
Yeah.
Drew is
Didn't last
interesting
long.
because Drew. I know a lot of Andrews. I know a couple Andys. I
Yeah.
don't know many Drews.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was unique.
So to get back to this point, Orioles are going to mash, right? They trade for Taylor Ward. They sign Pete Alonso. I think the expectation is Gunnar Henderson is going to continue to be an MVP quality candidate. I think they're hoping for bounce back from Rushman. Basayo's in the fold as their catcher / DH. I think their thought is like, dude, we're just going to hit.
Yeah.
Because they clearly still need pitching. Rogers was nice last year.
Yeah.
You need another top-of-the-line starter.
It's going to be so weird seeing Pete Alonso in a Baltimore jersey.
It's going to be really nice not seeing Pete Alonso in a Mets jersey.
Well, yeah, sure. The polar bear.
Wow.
Baltimore bear.
So obviously, report was the Orioles offered Schwarber the 5 for $150 the Phillies offered him. I guess he wanted to stay home. So they go and pivot to 5 for $155 for Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm like stunned. I love breaking news on the air. Their offense is going to mash, man.
Yeah.
They might be the Diamondbacks of 2020. What was it, 24?
3?
Where the Diamondbacks scored like 900 runs, but also gave up like 850.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what they're going to be. They're just going to try to
Holy
out-offensive
smokes.
offense
What a
everybody.
deal. So if you're the Mets,
What do you do?
what's your plan?
I don't know. I got
So,
no idea.
Do
It's
they go
confusing.
after Tucker?
They have to, right? Like they need somebody.
So it's got to be Tucker or or Bellinger would be my guess.
Bellinger, yeah. I mean, who's still out there? I mean,
Do you trade for Ketel Marte still? I know you've already traded for Marcus Semien. Do you trade for Ketel Marte and
they're going to
figure
need
it
to make a
out?
big splash.
I I don't think. And by the way, I agree with you, Broad Street Bullies. I don't think they're. I don't think they're trading Adley.
No. No, I know there were like rumors of like the Phillies potentially going for Adley Rutschman, but it really does seem like, especially because Todd Zalecki today or it was yesterday, he came out saying that there is a deal on the table. So him coming here, Adley coming here is sounds.
So there's a YouTube MLB content creator. Do you know Giraffe Neck Mark? He's a Mets fan. Covers
Giraffe
everything,
Neck
but
Mark?
Mets. His Giraffe Neck Mark is his Twitter handle.
Is that long neck?
Mark Luino is his name, but he goes by Giraffe Neck Mark.
That's a good name.
He's a diehard Mets fan. He's known to be a little overdramatic, but he tweets, "I'm so bleeping pissed off at the Mets right now. Bleeping embarrassing franchise." Mets fans are handling this well.
Good. I would love for them to handle it well. Not.
Alonso, by the way, ends up making between the 155 and the year deal or 2-year deal or whatever it was, ends up making 205 in the 7 years since turning down 158 over 7. Bet on yourself and win, man.
What are they going to do at first base?
That's a good question.
You lost your first baseman. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Is Juan Soto your only power now?
So Juan Soto hit 40 home runs last year, right? 40, 42, something like that.
I
don't even know.
Like that's a big hole for them. That's offensively, that's a big hole. And defensively, like, do they have a replacement first baseman? They're going to have to go for somebody.
Obviously, Lindor still provides you pop, but that's your leadoff hitter, right? So like he hit 31 last year, but the next closest was Brandon Nimmo, who doesn't play for them anymore.
No.
Brett Beatty hit 18. Mark Vientos had 17. McNeil, 12. Francisco Alvarez, 11. Everybody else was in single digits.
Yeah. So now you're relying on Lindor and Soto.
Yeah, your two best hit, who still are your two best. Like, it's still a good one, too. No, don't get me wrong. But I think you need to provide some protection.
Maybe they try to tap into the Japanese market as well.
Murakami might make sense for them.
Yeah.
God,
Okamoto, it was in Okamoto, like
Okamoto would be
third or first baseman.
Plug and play. I guess either could play first, right?
Yeah, I mean
Neither are really good defensive third baseman. Maybe either could play first.
Because that's what it sounds like they're going to need.
Wow. So my guess would be then you go solid defensively up the middle, right? With Simeon's your second baseman, who's a really good defender. Francisco Lindor has been a at least one defensive WAR defender each of the last 3 seasons and 4 of the last 5, and basically his entire career, good defender in his own right. I think you just go really good defense up the middle, and you take what you get. Because Pete Alonso wasn't a good defender.
No,
so like,
we're not saying
kind of like the Castellanos conversation.
But he had the offense to support the bad defense,
right? Which is where my thought maybe
like,
pivots to Murakami. But dude, if he strikes out like 40 times in a month, I'm being facetious, right? But he's going to strike out probably 200 times in a season.
Yeah,
the Mets fans are going to hate him. I chuckle at the Mets offseason they're having so far.
I chuckle at you, sir.
What's the Monty Python? I spit in your general direction or something like that?
No, it's I fart in your general
direction.
General direction, yeah.
Wow.
The coconuts.
Breaking news right at the end of the show.
Well, everything's going to move now. I mean, that's what they were waiting for. The Kyle Schwarber was the first one off the table, and now it feels like, you kind of unclogged the pipe, and now everything's going to be kind of flying out. So I feel like in the next couple of days with the meetings starting, we're going to see a lot of people finding new homes.
Hey, the Phillies have made a trade.
Just now?
Just now. They acquired...
A big trade?
No, minor league trade. Okay. Yoniel Corrette from the Tampa Bay Rays.
Who?
Yeah, a minor league pitcher. Yoniel Corrette. I assume that's the correct pronunciation. I'm going to apologize to him in advance. Yoniel Corrette is how you pronounce his name. Last year, he spent most of his season in AA and AAA, pitched to a 3.9 ERA in AA and AAA. Depth trade. Obviously, I don't know what they gave up.
Yeah.
But that's the small move to end the big move show. But we'll keep Remember Me for Friday, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
Because we didn't even get an answer to the first one.
Yeah. Ray Schumacher brought up like a nightmare scenario.
What's that?
Rhys Hoskins is a free agent.
Rhys Hoskins can't play anymore.
Well,
I hate to break it to y'all. Rhys Hoskins can't play anymore.
Imagine him in ugly blue and orange.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, he hit 237 last year.
Which, if he can't play anymore, have fun in New York.
He played 90 games last year.
Yeah, he
played 131, and he played 90 this past season. He had 214 in 2024, 237 in 2025. Yeah, I don't think Rhys Hoskins can hit anymore, to be quite frank. Power's still there a little bit.
Yeah.
But not enough to offset losing Pete Alonso. Mark Shark says Fangraphs had him as the second-ranked Rays prospect in 25. The Rays have been known to cultivate a lot of really good prospect players that become major league players.
And the Phillies have been known to fleece the Rays on prospects.
Well, the Christopher Sanchez trade is priority number one.
Are we going
there.
2 for 2?
Hey, man. I didn't know that. You got me a little bit excited for that. We'll probably pitch in AAA this year, but that's cool. That's a trade, a little bit of a move to end the show. All right, we're way over time. We'll do Remember Me on Friday with you, Andrew. And I want to say thank you to everybody who was in the chat today. It was a really active chat. I'm really appreciative of you all being here. Interesting news breaks. Excuse me, I have an itch right on my nose that I can't seem to scratch.
Nose itch is the worst itch.
It won't go away. Interesting news breaks at the end of the show. Pete Alonso is headed to the Baltimore Orioles. The Mets strike out once again, and we laugh and we laugh and we laugh until they end up making some kind of splash moving. And yes, Jose Alvarado too, by the way, got acquired from Tampa. So 2 for 2, maybe 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
But big thank you to everybody in the chat. Huge thank you to Andrew Frazier for producing and co-hosting today. I know you had a long day. I'm super appreciative of you as well. All right, coming up the rest of the day here on PHLY, the PHLY Eagles show at 2 o'clock, PHLY Flyers at 4, and then the cheap seats wrap things up at 7 o'clock tonight. We'll be back on Friday afternoon for our final PHLY Phillies show of the week. Hopefully more news. If there's any breaking Phillies news, we'll bring you another emergency pod as we did yesterday for the Kyle Schwarber news, and we'll do that all here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Until that time, we will talk to you at at noon, I apologize, here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.